Hi guys.
Hey yo!
How was your first French experience with your son in 2025?
It was good. I'm so glad you were able to come. I'm so glad you were able to come.
I was very happy, and that you stacked up extra food.
I
It's almost like
did.
it was almost
We
like
bought like 4 meals. That's how hungry we were. We hadn't eaten all day because we kept thinking we should eat this, and I'd say, "No, I know a special place we should go to." And so we didn't eat all day, and by the time we got there, it was dark. And because we were so hungry, we overbought. So we had a meal for 4 and enough stacks to feed the nations.
so almost like the Holy Spirit spoke to you, knowing
That you're going to stay. So this young man is staying. This young man is not coming with me today. He's staying through the weekend. And I'm going back to work. And he'll go back to school on Monday. So he's staying through to Sunday. He should be able to make his way back to the US.
you know what that means, though, right?
What does that mean?
I get to find the Leonidas and the durum kebab I was so desperately seeking.
That's true. Put it down, actually. We might as well just continue now. But we didn't even do a mic check, though.
We did not do a mic check. For all we know, all of this could have just not been recorded.
Well, but it's on. It's
All
on.
right,
We should be good.
Let's check.
We should be good. Okay, so we've done a mic check and it seems to work fine. So here we go. This is spring break. And this is one of the things I'm so grateful for. Spring break is when all the young people go, at least here in the United States. Well, we're not in the US right now. We're currently in Paris because I'm on the job. But normally in the US, spring break is when all the people go to Cancun to party and things like that. And lucky me, my son agrees to tag along with me on the job. So prior to this, we did a trip to Amsterdam. And then this time around, we've done a trip to Paris. And lucky for him, he gets to stay for about 4 more days. But I'm going to be traveling later this afternoon, later about 4 p.m. today. So we thought...
I'm devastated.
Yeah,
guys.
right. He's devastated, guys. So we thought we'll sit down and do a video again, just introductory as you get to know me a little bit better. I know he's always away. He's still in campus, so I don't get to spend that much time with him. I don't get to see him enough. So he won't be like a big part of my videos. He's my son, by the way, my only living child. You won't see him all the time, but just every time he's around with me, I like for him to come on camera and introduce my entire family, because this is my entire family. And that was a journey too, guys. Like I had to change what family meant. Initially, I always thought a family would have to be like a spouse. It would have to be like children, many children, not just one, many children.
At least like almost double digits, right?
Double digits. I'm somebody that really wanted many kids. When I was growing up, I used to say I want at least 7 kids, because I think that came from me growing up in a family of 7 kids. And I just thought 7 was a perfectly round up number. I just thought 7 would be it. And then as I got older, I remember thinking, yeah, I'll revise that number to about 5. Because my first marriage didn't last very long. And so by the time I was realizing like, oh, all this time has gone by, and I'm still on my own and time is passing, I thought to myself, you know what, 5 will be a good number. And as the years progressed, I remember revising that number to 3. And then eventually just revising it to just 1 more so that my son has a sibling growing up. And then before I knew it, that window shut. And so I have 1 living child, and he's my pride and joy. Brings me so much joy, and
I keep you on your toes.
He does keep me on my toes, and I'm so grateful.
I personally think she's just using me for views, guys.
Where would you even come up with that? I barely have viewership, which is perfect for this period in my life, because I'd call it just practicing. I'm just starting out. I've had this YouTube channel for a very long time, never quite serviced it consistently, just because my life was so volatile. My life was so up and down. I never really knew what the next day would bring. And truly, my life was chaotic before I found Christ. My life was chaotic and just so spontaneous. I have more stability now that it's just me in my life and my son when he's not in school. And so I have a lot more control over my schedule, what I'm doing versus what I'm not doing. So that's why this year I feel like I've managed to hit a stride of consistency that I've never been able to attain in the past.
I mean, you guys heard it yourselves, you know. Amen to the Lord Jesus Christ for making the path straighter, allowing us to gain peace and understanding through the trials and tribulations of life, from when we make our own mistakes to when life just kind of deals you a less than ideal hand. Right now I'm in France spending time with my moms. It's kind of crazy to think about, because You know, I used to dream for times like this, I guess, being able to travel. Do you remember back when I was 14, we had this world map that you bought?
Oh my goodness, that is true. I've always had. But that's the thing, though. I wouldn't consider myself a traveler. I would consider you a traveler because, like I said, you've always traveled. Our lives in Belgium, we would have only a 2 month vacation, but then you would be off for like 4 months for the summer, right?
3.
3 months. So you'd have 3 months, I'd have right coming up to 2 months off. So I didn't know what to do with him for the 1 month that I would be working, and he was already like school was shut and he had to do something. So I just send him over to Kenya to spend time with his cousins and get to know the family and my mom, spend time with his grandparents. And so he got used to traveling. What was the earliest you traveled? Because I keep saying 6 and I think you say it's 9.
I remember we went to Spain when I was like 9 or 10.
Yes, you've always traveled with me. That's true.
Like,
But
when's the first time I traveled by myself? Is that the question?
no, I think you were 2 years old when we went to Spain. I think that's when we started vacationing in Spain for our summer holidays. So that would probably be your earliest memory of travel. That's true.
Well, I remember us traveling as a separate time to Spain because that's the first time I went into like the beach, and that's when I learned that seawater is very salty.
That was different. That's when I was
Yeah.
working with the European Union subsidiary.
Hey,
And so I would go for boardroom meetings, and I would have him travel over the weekend when school was out to join me in whatever European city I was at the time. So that's how it's under those circumstances that you came to Spain. And then I think we did it also with Berlin, Germany. We did it with Paris. Did we do it with Paris?
see, I know we went to Paris because of the Disneyland Paris when I was like 6,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then I also remember going to Paris in high school with the EF tour thingy.
Yes,
But
that's true.
I don't have too many recollections of us being in France. You got to remember we were, well, you know, so Vlaams Brabant at the time.
That's true. I think I remember you coming to another trip. So we traveled extensively in Europe. It was either on our summer vacations or it was because of my job. I prior to my current job, I worked in finance and accounting, and that required, and because I worked for a subsidiary of the European Union, it required extensive travel. I think every 2 weeks I was out traveling, and so my son would join me and would spend the weekend together and then fly back together, and he'd resume school and I'd resume work. So you've been traveling quite a lot with me, but you traveling all by yourself, I think the first time was when you'd only travel by yourself. Actually, you were traveling by yourself to come to me.
I'll take your word on it. I do remember back when I was a kid, I used to be afraid of airports. They were so big, you know, like the airport is such a big space, so many lights, so many people just moving across. And I didn't know how people were able to figure it out. And then the trick that you told me is you got to read the signs, baby. That's what you used to tell me. And I would still be, and you know, at the time I was like, but like, I'm still scared. But then you would show me the ways. And as time went on, I remember, like you said, for the Kenyan trips, because, you know, I would fly from Brussels, go all the way there. I felt that I started getting a better handle of it. But I will say that like not until, you know, the US side, stateside things, when you worked for Brussels Airlines, did my travel bug really, I guess, emerge, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you remember there was a season where I would go like just to different states, just experience the things on every state for like that given weekend?
Yes.
Well, it's not quite a flying trip, but it was actually no, it was half flying. Do you remember when your car was in Texas? I think it was, and Satya and I and our friend,
The road trip.
yeah, Satya and I and our friend Jack ended up flying from Connecticut to Texas to then drive your car back to Connecticut.
That's when I had just left my job at Brussels Airlines and I had joined American Airlines. My first base was in Dallas, Fort Worth, and at that time, we just thought we'll move down to Dallas. At that time, I was still married, and we were looking to relocate to leave the cold state of Connecticut and go anywhere warm. And so we had driven my car down. Did you guys drive my car down, or did you guys just come to fetch it later?
No, we came to fetch it because we took a flight to go. I remember we took a
Okay,
flight. We
to
then
go down.
then we called. I remember we called you on the phone because we were in the parking lot and you had to like kind of guide us where it was. And then we jumped in the car and then every night we would find ourselves in a different hotel or whatever the case was and to stay there. And that was that's still one of the more memorable nights I remember because we literally flew to pick up a car. Like what type of like you got like that personalized service.
I did. I'm so glad I'm surrounded by such caring men in my life. Because I remember my ex-husband and I drove down. It took us like 3, 4, 5 days. We made it a beautiful road trip and just Had the most amazing time stopping in different states at different hotels, trying different foods until we made it down there. And then my car ended up staying there for quite a while. I found like I wasn't spending any time in Dallas because again I got my schedule. I was in full control of my schedule. I was flying again mainly Amsterdam at that point. And so we would fly to Amsterdam and then I would come home and go to Connecticut. Meanwhile, I had a place down in Texas. I had my car down in Texas, and I was never, I can count for the entire time. It was a 1 year period. I only spent one night in Dallas, Texas, one night. But all the other nights I was in Connecticut with my husband at the time. And so at some point we realized, okay, we're never going to go down there. So I got rid of that place and my son and his friends flew down to Dallas to drive the car back for an entire week. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about a week. I'd say
There was
5,
no
6 days.
rush, and you just took your time, stopped at different places.
The South definitely has superior barbecue than up north, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The South, they don't play with their what do you call that?
Cuisine.
No. Like there's a
Palates.
specific dish that they have. It's the slow cooked meat, like for
Yeah.
20
The slow roast.
roast beef. No.
No.
It's the one.
Fall off the bone.
Yeah, full.
Soft.
Anyways, they fall off the bone soft. You will get the itis, but it's worth it. You got to live
What
life.
is itis?
You know when you eat like a heavy meal and right afterwards you just want to sleep.
Yeah.
Also known as itis.
So that is your most memorable road trip, is it? Your longest road trip?
Yeah, I would say that's like the biggest road trip I've had. Everything else has been, same day, like under 12 hours, maybe 14.
But you've had equally longer road trips in Nairobi, yeah? Going to Bungoma to see the grandparents?
I don't know if I want to call those road trips, but I guess.
Because your uncle would drive you, yeah? Your uncle took you each time?
No, so my experience was actually different. I remember taking the bus, right? So like they would, so Uncle Anthony or one of the other ones would drop me off to the bus station. That was already probably like an hour or 3 just based on traffic alone.
Yeah.
And then we'd get on the bus. And honestly, God was with us on those bus rides because some of those routes are very questionable.
Yeah.
Like I remember one on top of the hill once. I was like, whoo! Those turns were really sharp. And then but then at some point we'd find ourselves there was I think in Kakamega, and then from there things are pretty straightforward.
Bungoma.
No, like what's the town next to Grandma's place? Like the town like right near like
Kakamega. It would be Kakamega, the biggest town.
Okay, yeah, because from Kakamega, I remember
and
then.
she's from Kakamega, actually.
Because I just remember from Kakamega, then I would then get a local ride from there. Sometimes it would be a pick or a tuk-tuk because at that point it just didn't make sense for a bus to bring us up the way to the property, if you remember. Because like the road to the property was not.
Yeah, the road was a bit rough terrain. You'd need that was quite an adventure. All right, what more about your travels?
I've been to Japan 3 times.
He's been to Japan, guys. I haven't been to Japan even once.
Well, it's funny actually. The first time was actually because of you.
How come?
Do you remember back for whatever reason your company at the time awarded you guys like excellence? You guys like performed excellent service that year. I think you guys won like an award, whatever the case was.
Yes, I do remember that.
And as a thank you letter, the company ended up giving you guys like I think it was two
confirmed bookings to go anywhere in the world.
Yeah, so 2 round trip tickets confirmed. And
I was supposed to go with my husband at the time, but we didn't want to.
No. You and so you and
Dad. It was given for me, but we could give it to anyone else.
Yeah, and the thing is that you guys were going to go to Kenya at the time for a wedding, I believe it was.
Yes, we had a wedding we had to attend. My sister was getting married. She had decided to have her wedding in Nairobi. No, in Kisumu, Kenya. My husband and I at the time were committed to that function, but the tickets were expiring at the end of that year because this wedding was in December around like Christmas Day.
The reason, if you're wondering, is that American doesn't directly go to Kenya.
Yes, and these tickets, America doesn't fly Africa at all, so we wouldn't be able to use these tickets to go to Kenya, but they were also going to expire at the end of that year. So we gave them to Jan.
Yeah. And then me and Southia, my homie, we decided like, hey, do you want to go to Japan? And he's like, well, like, I don't really have cash. And I'm like, what if the tickets are free? And like, why would I say no to free tickets? And that was our time over there for, I want to say about 10 days? 10 days. It was like a little under 2 weeks. I remember that. And I can honestly say that from going to Japan, that was a life-changing experience. There, culturally speaking, just being able to see people actually take care of their streets, like not throw trash whenever out of convenience is like a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Also Japan is really interesting technologically, right? Because like in some parts it feels like it's super, futuristic, but some parts it feels like it's a time capsule of the 80s and 90s. Like you'll still see phone booths if you like walk around, and they're still active,
Yeah.
which is like
They're
really
still active.
yeah, which is like oh that's interesting.
Because
And
you'll see them in the UK, but they're more relics.
yeah, no, like
Yeah.
they're still active. Same thing also goes for internet cafes. That's still like a thing.
Oh.
Yeah. But then on the flip side, they'll have like bidets that are like super highly like super technological like advanced bidets where you have toilets that they'll heat up for you. They'll even play music so that your bathroom experience
Experience.
will be not disturb the household. So it's quite interesting, really.
Yeah.
It's really quite interesting. I also remember also going to a arcade place where they have a VR machine, virtual reality machine, and just thinking about how advanced it was back then to now, like almost 10 years later, especially with the AI boom.
Yeah. Oh,
Whoo!
man, it's gonna be exciting. So he's going again, May, when school is out.
Hmm.
And you're going for much longer. Are you still going with a friend of yours this time? You're going with Ed.
Yeah, I'm going with Sir Edward. We also actually went to Japan back in 2019,
That
and
was
we
your third trip?
second time. That was the second time.
Yeah.
The idea was to go more often, but then if you remember, COVID hit, and that kind of put a jam into traveling for a solid 2-3 years.
Then you didn't travel at all, and now you're finally just beginning to pick up again.
Well, so then if you remember last Christmas, so Christmas of 2023, then I made a trip going with the guys. That was really fun as well, and that was for about 2 weeks, give or take. So that's like now post COVID being over.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting back into the traveling bag where Ed and I kind of decided like it's time for us to fulfill with that thing that we wanted to do all those years back. Like it's about to be 5-6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And also with a little bit more Japan experience on my end, I was able to tell them let's go to places X, Y, and Z to verify that because Tokyo's great. You have to go to Tokyo, but there's more to Japan than just Tokyo. That's all I want.
Where have you been in Japan?
Tokyo, Hokkaido, well, Sapporo and Hokkaido in the Hokkaido prefecture, Kyoto, Osaka, Hakone. That's a great place for springs, by the way. If you just want to like sit down in like a hot spring, such a beautiful, restful place. It is a town though. Like there's literally like only like 2 stores where you can buy food. The
Yeah.
buses end at like 8 or 9 p.m. So
Yeah.
like it is like the dope
You even
situation.
had to fly from one city to another. Which
Yeah,
one?
I had to fly from Tokyo to Sapporo because that's in Hokkaido prefecture. It's like its own standalone island.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
and they're known for their milk over there.
Milk? What
Yeah.
about it?
Apparently, just like really good milk, and therefore their dairy products are like really
Milk
good.
from cows?
Yeah.
Or milk from nuts?
No, milk from cows, cow milk. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So this time around, I'm really excited to give Hokkaido another chance because the reason I went there, believe it or not, I went there for like one day was to catch a concert from this really famous Japanese performer. His name is Masayoshi, excuse me. He's been in the game for like 40 years. I remember listening to his music whenever I'd study because it's like that type of jazz relaxation music. So when I found out that he's there when I'm there, I kind of had to jump on. Yeah, I had to jump on the ticket.
You're a huge jazz fan, aren't you?
But of course.
Last night we went to a jazz concert at the hotel downstairs, and it was so good actually. It was Elvis Presley, but in jazz. It was really good, but to be honest, I was so tired. I couldn't stay awake. At some point, my son just nudged me and said, let me get you to bed. So we just came back to the room, but it was nice. I hope to catch another jazz. In fact, we've just discovered a new jazz singer on Spotify. I think his name is Etoile. Yes.
Oh yeah, the star guy.
I just discovered him on TikTok. He's got some of the smoothest jazz, and his name is Etoile, I believe. Because I think we all should go and support his jazz. It's beautiful. Classical music. You've been a great fan of classical music, right?
I'd say more jazz than
More
that.
jazz
But
than
I will say that classical instrumentation is very interesting. I like classical music in the context of music soundtracks, movie soundtracks. So like those classical pieces, like the Beethoven and such, I think they're a little bit overplayed. If that
I
makes
like
sense, they're
Tchaikovsky. Very much so.
okay.
Okay, to each his own.
To each their own. I mean, all right, it's a great place to start.
Yeah. Okay. So you like what? The underdogs?
No, I just like I said, like I love the instrumentation of classical music. It's just that when you say the word classical music, there's certain key figures that keep popping up in your head, right? The Beethovens, the Mozarts, and again,
Greats.
yeah, the greats. And there's more to classical music than
I know you've always liked basement type stuff. You've always liked the underdog, to be honest. You even had a podcast
steady
for
rotation.
that steady rotation, and they would feature the less known musicians, yeah, the less known people. You've always been one to support the underdog. How did that come about?
I guess I just don't want to follow the crowd. I'd rather make my own waves.
See,
But I wonder where I got that from.
the rebel.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on swiftly.
So, quick points. India last year.
Oh, we did India last year, trip of a lifetime, bucket list trip for me. I've always wanted to go to India. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm in love with the country of India, the people of India, the culture of India, the customs of India, the costumes, the food, culinary, anything. Name it's Indian, I mean, desserts. And last year, February, we got to do India in great style, attending a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Jan's friend at the time, the sister was getting married, and she just said, "Come along for the wedding." Guys, it was a VIP wedding. It was $1 million, 5 to 7 days wedding. I think it was a 7 day wedding. I don't know, it felt more like 10 days. And each day you needed a new outfit. So as soon as we got there, the first thing we did was go shopping because now we had to have wedding attire for all the 7 days. And then we had to have the shoes to go along. We had to have bags to go along. We had to have jewelry. The jewelry there to die for. I even got my nose pierced there because I've always wanted a nose piercing, always from when I was about 16. But I don't even think I ever asked my parents for them to say no. I just knew it was, and I wouldn't even know where to begin to go and get one. My mom had pierced our ears when we were like babies, so we have no recollection of that. And it wasn't a thing piercing ears unless you were Muslim or Arab, which we weren't, so it was out of the question. This was an opportunity for me to go ahead and do that. So we did. I got a beautiful diamond to go with it. And it was amazing. We had a chauffeur, we had our own hotel room, we had a chauffeur assigned to us to take us anywhere we wanted to go any time of the day. So we were able to visit the market. I was able to buy fabric from there, little knickknacks, bits and bobs. It was awesome. The food at the wedding every day. Listen, that was the experience of a lifetime. I'll forever be grateful for that experience. And we didn't pay a dime. I mean, except for the shopping, everything else was covered. We just had to show up.
The first time we went to India, we did it in style, which I think for subsequent visits, future very coming up, will
Future visits, it's gonna pale in
yeah.
comparison. Nothing beats having your own driver to take you wherever you want to go. That to me was just the highlight, especially because I don't like driving. So the option to rent a car and drive it is just daunting to me. I'd rather use Ubers the entire time I'm there, or even land the public transportation system, anything but driving. I really do not like driving. It's one of my least favorite things to do. It was amazing having a chauffeur to just get us anywhere we wanted. So that was a trip of a lifetime, if you ask me. India was a trip of a lifetime for me. What would be the trip of a lifetime for you?
Japan.
Japan would be that for him.
Yeah, like the second time when I went to Kyoto with Ed, it's actually really funny. So one of the reasons I actually wanted to go to Japan was obviously like I watched anime growing up. Go figure. Growing up watching it, I remember, I guess by knowing that anime is a Japanese product, you at least become more interested in Japanese culture. Now, I knew I was a fan of anime, but that didn't directly make me a fan of Japan because I kind of, I knew like it's a product of the
But
Japanese culture.
yeah, you've been doing manga drawings.
Yeah, since I was a kid, I've been watching anime that made me aware of Japanese culture, or at least made me aware of this Japanese medium art form. There was this game actually, on the Wii. I forget what it's called, Samurai Warriors 3 or something. It's a game where you essentially play battles that like historical battles that happen in Japanese history. And one of the battles occurred at this place called over in Osaka. It was like near the castle in Osaka. And like the game made the castle like I knew some of the historical significance of the castle and the battles that were sieged there. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I would always just wanted to check out that castle. But it was just kind of like a fleeting thought because coming from Leuven, or coming from Belgium, and specifically Leuven, knowing how World War II directly like really impacted like the landscape of old, the land like affected the landscape and the durability of some of the old castles that were standing. A lot of them fell or at least got damaged. I kind of knew that historical relics, I guess they just don't last because of world wars, or at least like due to time. So when Ed and I went over to Kyoto, and we saw there's like there's like the castle was there for viewing. I was like, oh, cool, we get to see some of the remnants of the castle, right? Like whatever remains of the castle. We go there, and the castle's standing there in its full glory, like untainted. Like it's not like it fell or was like rebuilt. It was just there
from all those centuries ago.
yeah, and that was like really amazing to me to see that. And then we went to the gift shop, like near the castle area, because of course it's a gift shop. And all of a sudden, like I just hear the music of the game that I used to play, that like played in the game. So now it's like this full circle moment where the thing that made me want to go here was reminded after I completed the thing that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And that was just like honestly, like just thinking about that, that's like a watershed moment. Because again, I didn't even think that the castle would be standing just based on like historical, on a by assumption that it would have been destroyed in World War II or whatever the case is, or just over the years, degrade.
Yeah.
And just to be able to see it in its full glory, and then I guess that to see that remembrance of why I wanted to see that.
That was a watershed moment for you.
It was, yeah, it was.
And what made you decide to learn Japanese as a language when, at a time when most people talked about learning Mandarin or Chinese? What made you decide I'm going to learn Japanese instead?
Just knowing the just knowing Japan's influence when it comes into the video game industry specifically.
Oh, that's your area of interest.
That's my area of interest, but also the fact that Japan has Japan's hold on the chip market. So now we're talking more like the hardware part. Is at least it's big enough or large enough that having the awareness of speaking Japanese would be beneficial. Because it's not as if that if I learned Chinese, for instance, Chinese, for instance, or Vietnamese, that would give me like a linguistical edge to learning. It's not like a Dutch German situation or
Yeah,
or
they're
Spanish
totally
Portuguese
different.
system. That they're completely different. They share in their writing styles a bit. So writing wise, maybe you can sort of see a little bit of an overlap in Japanese and Chinese when it comes to the kanji writings. But ultimately, like you have to you have to learn them individually. And I guess it just made more sense to me to learn Japanese than the other ones
And
at this time.
what made you start drawing manga? Like,
Oh,
how did you even get into
oh,
that
simple,
artistic space?
simple.
Uh-huh.
It just spoke to me as a kid. I just liked the aesthetics. I like the over exaggerated look. I also like the fact that it has the ability to, I guess, so cartoons are for kids, but animations are for everyone. So, like you can have an animated program that's for an adult audience or family friendly or for a target audience because it's just a medium.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Tintin would come to mind, right, from Belgium, right? Remember,
Beautiful.
that's not
Yeah,
exactly.
that probably.
Sorry, you're saying?
Did that have an influence? Because Tintin, which is known worldwide, is actually Belgian, but
Same for
we
the
have
Smurfs.
same for the Smurfs. Oh, yeah, that's true. And I think it's from the French side, so they call it Tintin. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And I often wonder how you start drawing because I don't remember being an influence in that area at all. I don't remember ever once buying you anything to draw, color, or sketch. Is that something you picked up from school, from your friends, from the Wii games, from the videos you were watching, or how did you end up being such a good manga sketcher or drawer?
Well, thank you for your praises. I won't go that far. It ultimately just comes down to you. I watch these shows. There would be these interesting shots or panels. You try to recreate them. Sometimes you get them well. Sometimes you don't. There's also even like this internal artistic side where like sometimes I can draw something and it can be technically correct, but it just doesn't speak to me or doesn't have that je ne sais quoi. Does that make sense?
So I might be biased, but this kid is just multi-talented, you know. His main area of study is engineering, specifically computer engineering, but he's done electrical engineering as well. His hopes are to go into game development, hence the interest in Japan, I guess, and I guess studying Japanese and maybe even traveling to Japan. He loves the idea of being able to create games. It's still a budding emerging field that is very successful. So that I guess is what he wants to do. But at the same time, he can draw very well. He really could become an artist and make a living doing that. I don't know if it's the image of the starving artist that scares him off of that, or it's just my African upbringing where it's like you will do a proper degree first. But he's also amazing in the kitchen. I mean, he can cook you food. He can beat any chef, any well-trained chef at the game. He's very good when he cooks for you. He really takes a lot of pride and a lot of pleasure in that. And then he also has a really good eye for interiors, like interior design. I remember like trying to rearrange my home, and he would come in and he would look and say something's not right. And then he'd go to the bookshelf and just move a few things around and this, and I said, "Yeah, now it's good." I started to wonder, oh my goodness, because I've gone to interior decorating school and I have a diploma in that field. But he'll show me out. Like he will do, I'll think I've prepared a place properly, and then he'll come and move things around, and he has a sense. He'll just say something's off, and then I let him have at it. And by the time he's done, the place will be looking better. So he's multi-talented. He seems to have his artistic side very intact, but he also have his other science side very intact. It kind of, I don't know where you get it from.
I have, I have a couple of guesses.
Well, I know I'm multi-talented as well. It makes life really hard to pick one thing and stick with it. That's why I've had all these careers.
The burden of choice.
The burden of choice, or in Dutch we would say, oh, looks problem. Maybe what we refer to as a looks problem, you know. Because I've had three careers my entire life. I've been a fashion designer, and then I've been a financial analyst, and now I'm a flight attendant. And I still think I have a few more careers in me to go. I don't feel like I'm quite done. This is the job that gives me all the freedom to explore. So yeah, I do intend to keep it because I enjoy it. I love traveling. I love the benefit it gives my kid to travel.
And the family too.
And the family too. But I think you take the most advantage of it. And for that, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. I have a family that loves to travel. We travel far and wide. I've got a sister that lives in Australia. So that's kind of the next big trip we're planning to do.
That's factual, though. I know for me personally, because now we've done India.
Now we've done
You know?
India, the bucket list.
Funny enough, South America is next for me.
You want to discover South America?
Well, it just kind of makes sense, right? Like, and I'm not, and I'm not talking about the resorts. I don't really care for that.
Yeah.
I would like to go and get. I guess I want to try the proper seafood properly, personally.
Yeah, it's about time it came. It's never on my radar too, because we do fly to those destinations, and I don't even pick them up as a trip. I don't even consider it like going abroad. To me, going abroad has consistently been coming to Europe, which again I do weekly or sometimes even twice per week. But it is true that we should both consider discovering South America. It's actually the closest to America, and for some reason it doesn't even exist for us. Been to Mexico on the job a couple of times, and also I went with my friend Merab. But aside from that,
Oh, you know what? We went to Canada by accident.
yeah,
So we definitely need to go back. So I guess here are the three ones.
yeah,
Canada, like we just have to stay there for like a week or whatever and just figure it out. Go to the French parts, the English parts, all the parts.
yeah.
Definitely want to check out South America, and that's more of like figure out like which country of that week or that month or whatever we'd go.
Yeah.
Because I would like to check out Brazil personally for some reason. I just want to check out Brazil.
Me too. Brazil. I did Argentina as well because I have a friend, my very good friend Rodolfo, is from Argentina. So I've always been curious to discover what Argentina is about. But Brazil is definitely top of the list. Argentina. I have a friend in Guatemala. These are all friends. Rodolfo, we worked together in Belgium when we worked at the DHL. And then I've got a friend we studied together when we were doing our masters in international politics. So she's now a diplomat and she comes from Guatemala. So we're still in touch, and I do intend to go over and visit her. So there's.
But the biggest one, or the next, like we can't, like 2025, this has to happen, is Australia.
Australia it is. So there you have it. We have our next bucket list trip. It's going to be Australia. He's planning to do a trip in Japan in a couple of months. He'll be there for a much longer time, a couple of months. So I hope I'll be able to take 1 week off and join him, spend some time with him. But the big one is Australia. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up because it's about 40 minutes long. I don't think I've ever posted a video this long. There'll be some editing, but I don't think much because we've just been sitting here chatting, getting to know you. We're now going to leave. We want to go to Monoprix to do a little bit of grocery shopping because I'm flying back to the United States later tonight. I think we leave at about 4 p.m. He's staying for a few more days, and then he'll fly back when he's ready. By then, I'll probably have looked him around for yet another trip or back, but not to France. I'm not sure where I'm going next. I have 10 days off, so I think I will probably just take the time off. No, I don't have 10 days off. I do have a trip to Amsterdam at the end of the month, the last week of the month. And I'll probably just take that trip and then wrap up the month and begin the new one. But for this particular video, it's a wrap. Thank you for meeting my son. Again, his name is Jan, Jan, which is a Dutch name. In English, it will be equivalent to John.
John the Baptist?
Yes, but in Dutch, it's Jan. That's his name. All right, we bid you adieu from Paris, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye.
You guys are definitely trying food over here. It's amazing.
The food over here is amazing. All right.
Take care, you guys.
Bye.